Biblical Shaker followers, I really feel that I am becoming redundant with my video presentations about the book of Jeremiah, just like Jeremiah must have felt when he approached the people of Judah time and time again to tell them to turn from their selfish and idle ways. This week, we will read chapters 15 through 19, just one chapter a day, following it with a Salt Shaker devotion that you will find posted on my blogspot at biblicalshakers.blogspot.com. Let us remain faithful in our reading of Jeremiah, pleading with the people. As we begin this week, we find chapter 15 presenting Jeremiah in several different roles in his spiritual ministry. Verses 1 through 9 shows Jeremiah as a mourner, a man with a broken heart. He did not rejoice that the people were facing either captivity or death. Verses 10 through 14, we find that his messages made people curse him and call him a troublemaker because he did not preach the smooth words of the false prophets. Jeremiah became the sufferer in verses 15 through 18 because he experienced the loneliness of leadership and the anguish of ministry. But God kept encouraging him. The closing of the chapter finds Jeremiah as a separator. He had to preach only the truth and not mix his words with lies as the false prophets did. This next section portrays the coming of disaster. It begins by showing Jeremiah's loneliness. He is a social outcast because of his harsh messages and his celibate lifestyle. God gave his servant 4 prohibitions. Number 1, do not take a wife. He had to serve alone. 2, do not mourn. No public grieving. 3, do not celebrate. This showed how seriously God took the nation's sinning. And 4, do not look back at the exodus from Egypt, for the future restoration of the nation will be greater than that. In chapter 17, 2 kinds of people are contrasted: those who trust in human beings and those who trust in the Lord. The people of Judah were trusting in false gods and military alliances instead of God, and thus they were barren and unfruitful. In contrast, those who trust in the Lord flourish like trees planted by water. And as is written in Psalm 1, a person who delights in the Lord is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season. The parables that Jeremiah shared in chapters 18 and 19 illustrate God's sovereignty over the nation. God has power over the clay, which represents Judah, and he continues to work with it to make it a useful vessel. But Judah must soon repent, or the clay will harden the wrong way. Then it will be worth nothing and will be broken and destroyed. God had the power to reshape the nation, to conform to his purposes, but they did not submit. We need to be willing and receptive to God's impact on us. As we yield to God, he begins reshaping us into valuable vessels. The potter knows the clay. Allow him to mold you into his purpose. He has planned a beautiful design for all of us. Won't you check in next week for another 5 chapters of Jeremiah? Don't forget, Biblical Shakers makes reading the Bible way more enjoyable for you. And I pray that the Lord will put a hunger on your heart.